Join us today to listen to Kaming Ko's fascinating story. Welcome to Moto Tribe. I'm Laura Kraft.
I'm Red Spade.
Nice meeting you both.
Today we have Kaming Ko with us. You're a motorcycle enthusiast, famous in local LA bike circles for showing up at tracks and riding the wheels off your collection of historic race bikes. Other guys keep them in the living rooms and polish them occasionally, yet you take them to the track and use them like their makers intended. Where are you today?
I am at a dear friend's business. It's a iconic motorbikes, and it's an auction house. I don't believe they have a retail outlet, but anyway, this is a warehouse. This is a service center, and they auction motorcycle globally, and they also handle consignments. I believe they have over 300 motorcycles between this hangar and two other hangars. I don't know. They have a website. You can see all the product. But I noticed that, again, it's a friend of mine. I'm not in the motorcycle business. I just love bike. But I love coming down here like candy store, walking around looking. In fact, just today when I walked in to do this segment with you, I saw a Ducati and my jaw dropped because that was the first Ducati I ever owned when I was about 19 years old. And now, of course, I'm kind of suggesting maybe I want to buy from them. so that I'm afraid to come here because I end up buying something,
Yeah. I'm really curious. So how did you get into riding? You mentioned 19 years old, so you've been riding for a long time.
I've been riding 51 years. And now, if you're including mini bike, I've been riding 53 years. It started out where it's a long story, but I'm trying to make it short about riding motorcycles. So I came to America in 1968, and as a child, never seen anything like in America, especially in the 60s. And I remember I saw a mini bike shop, and I was intrigued. Every time I walked by, students there. So one day, I lied to my parents, and I told them I have a school project, so I need to build something. So they gave me money, and I bought all the wheels and the frame and everything else. I built myself a mini bike. So that was my first motorized vehicle, and so from there, 2 years later, we were in Beverly Hills. I went to school in my second year high school, and I met a group of people that are dirt bikers. They ride in the desert, they go to Indian dunes, so on. So they kind of, I kind of gravitated to those guys because just liking bikes, right? But I had a little mini bike. But they took me on, and then I learned how to ride dirt bike. Then I saw the movie on any Sunday, I believe in '71, and just young and stupid, and everybody's on Husky 400, right? Steve McQueen's, everybody. So I go home, Dad, I want a Husky 400. Now remember, I just learned how to ride on a Honda 90, okay? But my poor dad, he bought me that bike. I couldn't ride it. I tumble, I jump, I everything imaginable I did. I bent the fork, everything. Because you're young, you ride more with, let's see, more aggression, than actual skill. There was no skill. I just went for it, just balls out everywhere, right? So I crash all the time. Now, when you're young, a teenager, you bounce right back. Not a big deal. But then one day, a friend of mine had a little Hodaka, 100cc Hodaka. And he let me try it. And it was something that fits me perfectly, being a small guy. And I loved it. So then after that, my friend, he's an experienced rider. So he would ride my Husky and I ride his Hodaka, right? We go Indian Dune. He ride my other bike, and he's happy. He got his expensive bike, and he get to ride for free. And I was happy because I'm learning how to ride. And that's how that was like 1970, 51 years ago. This first time I actually learned how to shift motorcycle. Long time.
Wow. So I was told that you started racing. How did you get into that? And did one thing lead to another for you?
Well, at the time, my friends are dirt bikers, so we go to the desert a lot. And so the only way I know how to ride, that's another funny story, because we use the rear brake mostly, right? We don't use the front brakes. And so, so first time, I believe, 72, when Kawasaki introduced the H2, the blue 750 triple, and same thing. It's the fastest street bike, blah blah blah. So I go, hey dad, I need one of those, right? So my poor dad got me one of those. So that thing, because I used to ride dirt bikes, so I did a lot of wheelies. So that was a wheelie machine. I loved it. But problem were I don't know how to stop. So every time I come to a corner, I would hit the back brake and a power slide, kind of like brake sliding, and make the corner. So, so in fact, even today, some of the old friends I have from high school, they still remember. He said, he go every intersection, just cross them up. You just go around the corner. I didn't know how you just front brakes. And and then I remember, um, um, uh, I was riding locally up in Rock Store, the very famous Rock Store area. And I used to go up there. And one day I was with a friend of mine, and I was working part time at the bike shop because I love motorcycles. So after school, I go to the bike shop, take the trash out, put the parts away, whatever. Anyway, I was up in the rock store one Sunday, and I went down the canyon. I passed a guy, and when I got to the stop sign, I'm waiting for my friend, and the gentleman came up to me, and he said, "Kid," he said, "you really should try go club racing." I'm looking at him, I said, no, those guys are too fast. I went to Riverside Raceway and I watched the professional racers, and I go, oh my God, this guy crazy. So, and he go, I think, you may find that you have the skill, you can hone your skill, you'd be good at this, blah, blah, blah. Then I didn't pay much attention to him. Then he reached in his pocket and handed a business card. He said from Cycle News. Now, back in the day, Cycle News is the Bible for the motorcyclists. So all of a sudden, being a teenager, you go, oh man, I've been validated by a guy from Cycle News that I'm good. So suddenly your ego kind of boosts, right? You go, maybe I really should try this. So I convinced my buddy that the actor was with me, and I can't remember how long later, how much later. Anyway, so we rode a motorcycle and to Orange County Raceway. Back in those days, it used to be a drag strip. And they used to run down the front straightaway. They go to the parking lot, and they go to the return road and come back to the front straightaway. So I rode there on my desert pants, leather pants, right? And I did have some road racing boot that Mike Hillwood used to wear, right? The same brand, called Lewis boots. And then I believe, I had a World War II bomber jacket, right? That a friend of mine's father gave me. He was in the Air Force. Anyway, so a bomber. Anyway, so I show up in this place, and I want to go race. So they gave me a paper plate, and I taped it on the headlight, right? And used electrical tape with a 4 on it. And there were 6 beginners, first timers, and we raced. Now, I had no clue what happened. I won. About 8-9 years ago, when I joined, maybe 10 years ago, I joined Facebook, and there was a page. It says a SoCal retired road racer or something like that. So I joined them, looking at it, and someone posted a picture of me winning my first race ever, black and white picture.
Wow.
And then, and I had my arm pump, and I had the guy with checker flag who would jump in front of the straightaway. Then I noticed behind me, remember the start and finish in the quarter mile, the drag strip. There's nobody behind me. I left them. Now I never knew that. I had no idea until I saw it on Facebook. So I could reach out to the guy, and I found out it was an old friend of mine, right? And I said, I want this picture. So now I have the picture. So, but that was pretty cool. And anyway, from there, I went to 2 weeks later. There was a local track called Willow Spring Raceway, which is the fastest track in the West. Never been there. And I went, and at that time, a club race, you pay $5 per class. So I'm there. Well, I say there, no trailer, no truck. I rode my bike there, right? So I would pay $15 and run 3 different classes, including the class with 1,000 cc's. Okay, so I didn't care. So during practice, and I'm going around learning the track, and the guy came around, a Manx Norton, a 500 single, just went around me. Now, being a young kid, you go, hey, that's an old piece of crap. How could that pass me? So I followed the gentleman back to the pit and found out the gentleman was a pro racer named Tony Murphy. And later on, he was a supplier for Rotex 2-stroke motor for go-karts and also 250 Grand Prix bikes. But long story short, and he said to me, he said, wow, you got to be smooth, you got to do this and that. He would give me lessons, right? So the following practice, I follow him. So then I learned a little more finesse, right? Instead of riding like a dirt bike, just dive into it, go sideways, out of control, right? So that day, I won all my classes, all 3, including the larger sizes, the 900cc Kawasaki. I beat them all on my little 500 Honda. Here's a crazy one now. Again, back in those days, we all wait for Tuesday, Wednesday for cycle news because they would publish every result around the world. Doesn't matter what it is. And there was a picture of me, right? And in a checker flag. And it was written, the story, by the guy that saw me at Rock Store from Cycle News. And I saw his name. Oh my God, that's him. So he basically, he said some nice thing about me, and how I won all 3 classes for the day. But I think I think the whole racing thing, that's cool. But anyway, as I get older, I reflect on some of my personal experience. And okay, those were good moments, discovery as a young person. What I discovered getting older and how much along the way that, yeah, you create your own luck a little bit, but at the same time, a lot of my life is due to because other people saw me and gave me an opportunity. Because what happened was that time, Pablo Shimura only been in America, I think, maybe 4 or 5 years, and Pop, kind of made friend with me and said, hey, bring me. Remember, this is my first season in the local cup race scene, and he saw something in me at the time, right? And wanted me to bring my engine over there. He wanted to help me do my motor. And I remember after I did my motor, and also other people helped me with the chassis, and I was in the 600 production class. I was untouchable. That was just, the bike was just so good, right? You say, some people go in the starting line, they get all nervous. I get the starting line, I knew I was going to win. That was really weird on that bike. I always knew. And so I won my championship locally, and then Stuart Toomey exhaust, the people make the 2-stroke exhaust pipe, and back in the days, I think he even built the expansion chamber for Barry Sheen and all that. Anyway, Toomey at that time had a Kawasaki X2R. It's an X factory bike. I believe it could have been Yvonne's old bike. But anyway, long story short, he asked me to try it, and it was at Ontario Motor Speedway. And I remember I asked the chief steward, I wasn't racing that day, can I test this bike? He said, okay, well, come. When the super bike takes off, and I'll wave you by, and then blah, blah, blah. Okay, so I sit in the pit lane, wait, and after he started the race, he gave me the wave, so I went. Then after about 4 laps, he gave me a black flag, and I pulled in, he started yelling at me. The reason was, he said, what the hell you think you were doing? I'm going testing the bike. He go, listen, I send you on the superbike race, you make them look stupid. You passed every one of them. He go, you shouldn't have done that. You're supposed to test the bike, not supposed to blow by them. And I'm going, oh, you didn't tell me that. Because when back in those days, you have a Grand Prix bike, weigh 300 pounds. I mean, through the infield, I was gone. I mean, the super bike back in those days, they're pigs, right? So they just hang on. I'm just zipping through them. I was gone. I'm out of here. And he goes, you make them look stupid. Get off the track.
That's awesome.
But anyway, those it's good times, And then I stopped, back in the days, as I was turned, I probably at that time 22, and then I started found more interest in ladies than my motorsport. Remember, I did not have a my parents. My father was did domestic workers, and so my father was a chef, and my mom, yeah, house cleaning and laundry and so on, right? But worked for very wealthy families. They even worked for Barbra Streisand and so on, right? So anyway, so nobody encouraged me. They never even came to my race. If anything, they discouraged me about motorcycling. In fact, at one time, my father goes, we really should have a talk. I think I should teach you how to cook. So you have something to fall back on, right? Because since I decided to drop out of college after the second years, so he see no future in this kid, right? None whatsoever. And but anyway, so I quit racing and I started going out a little bit, especially living in Hollywood. And imagine, right, in 76, 77, oh my God, Saturday Night Fevers, And so you're in Hollywood, I mean, a whole different crowd of people, okay? So, uh, so-called celebrity rock and rollers and so on. And by the way, I have no regret, I have a great time up in Hollywood Hills. So now, then fast forward, there were there were still people interested in me to continue racing. At that time, again, I have no idea why they do. I knew I was pretty good, but I wasn't that good. Okay, remember there was Kenny Robert, there was Eddie Lawson coming up at the time, and there was Freddie Spencer coming. But I was getting contact by different people about racing. Again, reflecting on what happened, all right, now I know why, and which I will share with you in a minute. But anyway, so I will contacted, go to Isle of Man to go race. Okay, we get your bike, race in Isle of Man. I get contact when you get a 500 GP bike and a 250 GP, you can race with Freddie Spencer, right? No, I can't, European, right? So then later on in 81, 82, and by now I'm pretty steady now. I have a steady girlfriend. We live in sin, live together, blah blah blah. So, and we're just getting ready to get married, and we gonna have our first child, so on. So I got contacted by a gentleman that this is a funny story too. He rented a what do you call it, the retail storefront, and he was selling old vintage British cars, and the guy that he shared office with, it was a exotic car auctioneer, and he was on the way to work, and he got cut off by some Asian drivers. So he was screaming and cussing about how horrible Asian drivers. So my friend, they start teasing about Asian drivers, and they go, "No wonder there's never been a Formula One driver. No wonder there's never been an IndyCar driver." Then they went to go, "Hey, can you imagine if you find one of those, right?" So my friend ran in the building. Go, I know there's a kid. He's really fast on a motorcycle. You should put him in. Because the gentleman also has a race car that he sponsored a guy in San Francisco. So he go, "You should let the kid try your car out." He go, "Yeah, tell him to come over." So I went and met this guy. So he go, "Do you think you can handle the car?" I said, "I have no idea, but I tell you what, if you ride a Kawasaki Triple, right, Grand Prix bike, I don't think it's any car I couldn't drive. So he sent me to a Jim Russell driving school in Laguna Seca for 3 days. Then we went to Willow Spring. Now by then, I know the track really well. Willow's my home track, right? So he had his driver show up in the crew chief in a Formula Atlantic car. The crew chief used to work for Jackie Stewart and also worked for Hal Shelby in the 60s for the Le Mans. So Kerry would get the car ready for me, and the driver for that car was there with his buddy to oversee what I'm doing. The car was set up for him. It was not set up for me. I drove, and now later, unknown to me at the time, I was faster than this guy been racing for 10 years. I didn't know. So now, so the guy left, right? And I finished testing. And I was supposed to have a second day to come back. And here's what happened: the guy that owns the car, or the sponsor, and was contacted by the crew chief, Kerry Akapu. And Kerry told him, this guy is faster than your guy, right? He didn't believe it. He go, how can it be? No idea. So now Kerry decided to fit me in the car better. So I'm not slapping around. In fact, I was black and bruised because those cars is a full ground effect. We get like 3.5 G's, right? So my body was slamming on the car. So I was black and bruised. But I pretend nothing happened. But I was in pain. But anyway, the next day I went out doing practice. I actually Alonso Jr. showed up too in his Can-Am frisbee. But anyway, so I was running around racetrack. I saw the pit lane. There was a black BMW. Like, oh, that must be Rick's BMW. You know, the sponsor. And then after I did my session, I came in. The BMW is gone. So Kerry said to me, the crew chief said, "Oh, Rick wanted you to call him when we're done today." Oh, okay. Fast forward. Rick saw it, put his stopwatch on it. He saw it. He fired the guy. He called my wife, my new bride, and asked her what she thought. Now, remember, she was only 19 years old. So she's like, oh, whatever, sure. So he asked her, would you mind, your husband, race car, travel around the world, blah, blah. Oh, yeah, sure. So she got her blessing. And so when I got back, I called him. He asked me to go in the office. So he asked me, would I be interested in signing a 5-year contract with him? And who wouldn't, right? I mean, who would? So I said, yeah. So I signed a 5-year contract, and right away he started sending me to try to get the points. So now, obviously, I'm not licensed to race cars, and so to go through the SCCA driving school, which is you're supposed to do this twice, and it's a weekend. They separate between open wheel and closed wheel cars, and to get your basic. I think they observe what you do, understand the flag and the rules and so on. I really don't know, and I'll tell you why I don't know. So first time I went, it was at Riverside Raceway, and after the 2 days, class and discussion about flags and stuff, and they have a 5-lap exhibition race. Those must be 40 or 50 open wheel cars from Formula V to 7 of us in Formula 90 cars. The 5-lap exhibition, I lapped the entire field, the whole place, gone. So SCCA said, you don't need a second class. You don't need to come back. Here's your regional license, right? So we're all excited. Again, stuff like that. You have this sense of like invincible. Until I ran the first national. You got Michael Andretti, you got other people shows up, and then you look at your lap time, you're 3 seconds slower. Now these are spec cars. So I go, okay, I am not worth it, right? Then again, remember Michael driving go-kart since he's 5, 6 years old and sprint car, right? So there was a gentleman named Steve Millen from New Zealand, and he eventually drove a Toyota for the indoor truck championship. I believe he won a bunch championship. And Steve's brother was U.S. Rally champion also. Anyway, Steve was racing for Millennium car and with an identical car, identical color. And I went up and told him my background, how I'm stuck with this national race with him, right, and all the other great drivers. And he came over and looked at, I was explaining to my struggle. And he looked at my car. He asked me to give him 1 lap verbally, what gear, what the car was doing, and so on. So I told him, and he looked at my car again. He went to my crew chief and told him how to set up my car. So afterward, then he tells me how to drive his setup, right? And I keep looking at him. Are you sure I can hold that flat out around that corner? He go, well, if you're nervous, he go, do like drive like a go-kart. Use your left foot, just drag your brake, and just keep your right foot flat out until you feel comfortable and let go of your brake all the way. Okay? So in a couple of laps, and my lap time started dropping like crazy. During qualifying, I qualified sixth, so I within half a second now, no longer 3 seconds behind, right? So after that, I went back up to him, thanked him, and I asked him, how would I know how to set up a car? Like how? Because he'd never been there. This is the first time at Riverside, and I know Riverside, but he's a car guy. I'm a motorcycle guy. So he sat down and explained to me why he set up the car for this track, and that then it clicked. One of those moments I was thinking, I got it, right? Because remember, he's not going to be babysitting me every track, right? So that was a huge help from Steve Miller, and then I continued running national to gather enough points. Now I ran it for half season because the contract were they're going to push me to get my FIA license so I can run Formula 2 for the European Series. Then they want to sell me, right? Because I was telling you, I learned why people behind me, because I was a commodity to them. Because at that time, big corporations try to get into China, and the only way they're going to get any kind of traction, they have to bring a Chinese person their audience can connect with. So that was the first time I learned that. Okay. When I went to Macau Grand Prix, I was invited to drive Macau because the hometown. I came from Hong Kong. That was a big thing. And I was all over the newspaper, again, unknown to me. Oh, by the way, so my parents never came in races. They never knew anything about me. So before I went to Macau, in Los Angeles newspaper, Chinese publication, it's all about me, the hometown boy going back to race car. At that time, my parents lived in Florida, and I got a phone call from my dad. They go, hey, so-and-so called me and said about you going to Macau Grand Prix, blah, 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 some big deal, this and that. Again, they knew nothing about this stuff. I go, yeah, Dad. I said, yeah, I got invited by so-and-so, so-and-so. And you can tell he was like in shock and like in awe, he can understand it. Now, remember, this went on. So I started cup racing, I think, 74 in motorcycle. This got to be 82, right? So this whole 8 year during my motorsport, in between I went to discotheque too. But anyway, that's another story. But we're not going to cover that. But anyway, so she had no clue, right? So you can tell he was pretty impressed, and then start asking me a lot more questions. Then from then, every weekend, my father would call me. He would watch racing. It didn't matter if it was NASCAR, Formula One. He would ask me all about cars. And I was like, oh my God, he finally connected with me. He get it. But anyway, I went to Macau. My daughter now is 9 months old. And I remember I came up to the room. And her little diaper, she was 9 months, and she just learned how to walk. She got this big old smile and just wildly walk up to me without touching the bed. She was so excited. And I looked at those eyes, and I said, you can't go to Europe. This little girl needs you. Because when I was racing, it was never about safety for me. It's about winning. And that's all I knew. It's not about money. It's about opportunity, and I'm going to win. If I don't know how to win, I'm going to ask. I'm going to learn from the best. But all of a sudden, that moment, somehow it hits me so hard. I thought, that little girl needs me. I said, if something happened to me, because remember, at that time, my wife is a young woman. She's only 20 by now. And I remember afterward, I called my manager, my sponsor, and told him what happened. I need to quit. And he was, what happened in Macau? I told him the story. Then he knew it. He go, once you have that in your head, you can race. Period. You're not going to win. You can race, but you're not going to win. Just like now, I go to track day. I'm slow because I have nothing to gain. Listen, when you go to track day, only thing is more than what you come with is an ambulance ride. That's it. Right? You get nothing. You get no trophy, no money, no sponsorship. But if you get anything extra, you're in the ambulance. That's it. So I go slow on the track. I'm fine, But anyway, So that's when I quit. In '86, my journey could have continued because I was at a Christmas party and there was a gentleman named Mike Tubb, and he was a marketing guy for a Miller Brewing Company. And at the time, they ran a Danny Sullivan in the Indy for the Indy cars and for the Penske team. He asked me if I would drive Indy 500, and I'm like, what? I go, I don't know how to go left circle. It's at 200 some mile an hour. Nah, we don't care. What do you mean? They go, we just want you to sign the contract, basically do the whole thing, stand in front of the car, blah, 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 all the shit, and do some laps. And I go, I don't even think I can qualify. He go, don't worry, we have the best driver in our team with Penske. They'll teach you how to drive. And I thought about it. I go, that's so wrong. Again, I feel like a commodity, right? Not being recognized as a skillful technician, right? As a race car driver. I turned it down. I said, I can't do that to my fellow drivers. It's better have money well spent with those people. One of the reasons I believe, is my opinion, in '86, they still tried to penetrate Chinese market. And Miller wanted to get the beer in there, right? And again, try to use this phase to get in there. Now, reflecting on it 10, 15 years later, yes, I'm going, shit, I should have done it. Because still today, they have Japanese, they had Malaysian, various Asian people, right? Drove Indy. Still never a true blood Chinese ever. 500. And I couldn't believe I had the opportunity and I turned it down. But at that time was the right thing to do. There was it just I want to be sponsored through the merits, not because some commodity, you know what I mean? And but anyway, so those my racing journey, and then of course then I stepped into a little bit in the endurance racing. Through the Formula Atlantic, I met other people, and they continued racing. They ran the MSUD, and so at the Rolex 24 Hours, they need more than one driver, and so I got invited 3 times and get to drive, GTP light car, the Camo Light series, and that was fun. Another experience. Yeah, so I have a very good, very exceptional journey from help. That's what I said earlier. That looking back, how many people have some kind of faith in me and this and that, other than the people want to use me for a marketing tool, but the people help me along the journey. And in fact, right now at my age, 67, my closest friends are motorsport people, and because we kind of came from that circle. But anyway, and I have friends around the world from this. Even like today, Pablo Shimura, passed away many years ago, but his son Fujio, right, still a friend of mine, and his grandson, right, still in Los Angeles. I see him every now and then, but whenever Fujio come to the state, usually we go to dinner and stuff. So after all this year, it's great.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I know it's quite a story that you've had. So once you stopped racing, what did you do next?
I think I was very lucky. When I quit in '83, I came back, and it's crazy because again, I did not get a formal education, so I didn't know how to get a job to help pay for my at that time one child, and so my wife had a job part-time working at it's a French wine thing, and I went and looked for work, and I went back to my old boss that used to have the bike shop. Now that's before internet, so they did do a lot of what you call junk mails, right? Direct mail advertising.
Mm-hmm.
But he was not sending junk mail. His company was travel related, airlines, travel wholesalers. So back in the day, when you travel anywhere else in the world, you go to your travel agency and you get your brochure, and then you see what suits you, your budget, and so on. So his company was a distribution center for these clients, all travel related. Mostly, in fact, I think he had all the South Pacific operators, including the airlines. Okay. So I went and begging for a job and told him I quit racing. I need a job. I have my daughter and da da da. He go, well, he's like, I don't have a full-time job, but you can work in the warehouse, help me clean up the warehouse, part-time, X amount of dollar an hour. So of course, that's not enough to raise a family. Thank God, my father, would send me money because for him, he knew why I did it, right? To quit, even I could have lived a lavish a lifestyle, right, and make a lot of money, but being an old Chinese guy that he was, and he thought I was being responsible and to do that. So he didn't mind to help me subsidize my monthly expenses. I worked for this company from the warehouse to become a full-time employee, and I believe at that time he paid me $1,375 a month. That was not enough because although my two-bedroom apartment is $500, but again, this back a long time ago. What happened was I saw so many. There was a lot of communication issue between the workers in the back and the front office. And so I started setting up system, right, procedures, right, for them. So I think from there, I earned some respect from the office people too, the people working in the front office. So they start working with me for other things. So I become like a coordinator and a liaison between front and back and production and so on. And because of it, I got so familiar with business, and now all of a sudden I can see some what do you call it, a profit opportunities. Okay, so I shared that with the owner, and he said to me, he go, "Well, if it could be done," he go, "everyone else would have been doing it." I go, to be honest with you, I don't know why people are not doing it, but that's not what I'm sitting in front of you is about. It's not about what other people are not doing it. Would you allow me to do it? Okay. He go, of course you can make it work. So okay, let me borrow the data people for X amount of time, so on. Because I need to gather a lot of data between zip code, this and that, right? So I did, and from $1,375 a month, I made $86,000 a year. So that's $7,000 a month income. Now remember, back in those days in Los Angeles, a nice home is only 160 grand. So every 2 years I can buy a house, right? So I started investing my money a little bit here and there, and yeah, I had a good time. Unfortunately, my marriage didn't work out, not due to any kind of an issue between my ex and I. We're still very good friends, actually. I think because we met when she was like 16, 17 years old, she needed to grow up. It's so funny. I remember when she asked for separation, divorce. I'm looking, I go, what the hell did we do? I go, you have a boyfriend? What do you have? Why you break up? No, she's just not being happy. She need to grow up. And so I think that's why we still have the good relationship because we understood. But anyway, then I found my roots. Suddenly I understand about business and I'm learning. Um uh, and then from there, I working with China. Oh, by the way, the car racing really helped me too. Remember you asked me about when I went car racing in Macau, I noticed all these wealthy people, right, racing cars. They're really no smarter than me. They just have a larger market share. So all these people either have national type of business or international type business. I was working in a bike shop, right, motorcycle shop. I was the highest paid employee at the time there, and I could not buy the bike I'm selling, right? So when I stopped working with SD advertising, after I got back, I quit racing this and that. My mind keep going. I need to get in the business that have either national, international, uh, base, customer base. So eventually, I used my contact in from my Macau Grand Prix racing, and I met a guy. I called him up, and he had a what do you call it? A contact in South China. At that time, I think that was mid 90s, early 90s, and they invested over $200 million in the region for manufacturing. They needed somebody to help them market their capabilities. And I remember I spent the first week visiting all the factory, and I said, hey, listen, there's nothing you make here is suitable for the Western market. Nothing. They go, well, that's why we want to talk to you. I want you to help us. And I remember one night, and the light bulb came on. And on Monday, I went back to the corporate office. I said, I have an idea. So I asked them to provide me list of equipment and picture the plan, the factory. And I went to England and went to a place called NEC, the National Exhibition Center, and I did my little market research. So I have a small booth. I'm standing here, being a Chinese guy, and with some picture in the background, a list of equipment, which I have no idea what they do, but it's back there. So on the table, I will have Brembo brakes. I have Momo wheels, right? I have SAC clutch disc, all the name brand on my table. And all these English people walk up, they look at a Chinese guy with all this name brand, right? And they go, okay, what's going on here? They go, of course, they being a smart ass, and they go, you make this? No, sir. You make that? No, sir. Then what are you selling here? I said, well, what I'm selling is what's behind me, that we have $200 million invested in China. We're looking into partner with a European company, have a need to expand their product that without having to invest one penny. All we need is technology transfer. Show us what you want, we'll make it. The guy goes, no. So a day or two later, I was in their local industry paper. I think I found a copy of it recently. And about China entering the automotive market, blah blah blah. This town lead by Kaming Ko, and this and that, right? That was a big thing. They come into this back in early '90s, and so within a couple of weeks, I got contacted by an English company, and they need brake rotors, right? And they send a marketing manager. They came to China. And visit the factory and make sure this and that. Long story short, we start making stuff for them. It took about a year to get it all tested and so on. Then we went to Paris and to the Equip Auto, now have a big booth. And they have all these products sitting there. Right? I actually made something, right? I remember a bunch of French people with suits and tie walk up. So they go, are you the people who make these products for True Part in UK? I go, yeah. And you go, well, we'd like to get a bid on this. And because we sell the same product across Europe. I go, okay. I said, well, it's all dependent on volume, how many, so on, so on. And they go, well, we are at least 10 times bigger than them. So basically, they're waiving a $27 million purchase order in front of me for me to work on it. So that's how the beginning of my manufacturing. And now, again, back in those days, I worked for the company. So I got paid, but not that great. So years went by. I decided to go on my own, right? Leave the group. And by now I had the right contact. So I started marketing myself, right? To bring American companies. So I supply engine valves to Kohler up in Wisconsin. And Discount Tire Corp, I was selling them wheels because at that time, big chrome wheel was very popular and people couldn't get it. And then NASCAR got really, really big. So I went and bought the license, right, with a friend of mine out in Chicago, bought the license from NASCAR. Then I remember went to Scottsdale to America's Tire Corporate. And I said, listen, I'm a very lazy person. I don't want to do this twice. They go, what do you mean? I go, well, I know you guys sponsor NASCAR. And, my battery is running low. Hold on. And I said, you sponsor? I said, here's an opportunity. I said, we own the brand NASCAR. And if you want exclusive, right, and you sign me a 2-year contract, and it's all yours, and my job is done for for next 2 years. And he asked me, well, what do you need to get exclusive? I go, 10 million. They go, you got it. It was so funny. I'm going, those are the easiest sales I ever done because to them, $10 million purchase is nothing. You know what I mean? They do $4.5 billion back in those days, right? In tires and wheels. And so I said, I'm lazy. I don't want to knock on another door. Here, it's all yours. Just give me $10 million purchase order. I'm out of here. They go, you got it. So, but anyway, so that from there allowed me to have motorcycles that I want that I could not have gotten when I worked for the bike shop. Because suddenly now my income had elevated to a point that I can afford the thing I look at. I go, oh, I like that, and I'll buy it. Where before, this is in the 90s, so imagine, seriously, just imagine that back in the 80s when I was working in the bike shop, I remember looking at a Lever that was $7,000. I'm going, oh my God, I can never afford that because I was making 3,000 something a month, and I have rent, I have a child. You know, I can't pay for that, right? But not so bad, you know. So I was right because what I learned from race car is how much money was in racing, in car racing. That I learned that these people are no smarter than me. They just have a bigger market, you know. And so that's what it was. So reaching out, just like you're doing now, you're reaching out to everybody.
That's fantastic. So speaking of being able to afford motorcycles, you have an extensive collection, I have heard, and I've heard you purchased Nicky Hayden's and Rossi's MotoGP bikes as well in the past.
Well, it started out yes and no. I put it that way. Well, see, once after because I'm still up racing, so when the business is doing well financially, I was okay. Not rich, but I was okay. So I was helping Larry Pegram in the dirt track program, and then later on, we started a Ducati AMA Superbike team in 2000, end of 2002. So by starting that team with another gentleman, and I met some of the Ducati principals, right, from the race department, from Corsa. And then through the years, on and off, we went, you know, from there to Honda, blah, 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 to come back to Ducati again, I believe in 2006, 7, 8, 9, something like that. We went another Ducati 4-year program, a 5-year program continuously. So I become pretty good friend with them. So one year, I think it was 2012 or 13, and I was at the Indianapolis. They used to run the Grand Prix there, right, and the GP. And I went to the Ducati garage, and I talked to Paolo Ciabatte, and I said, I'd like to buy a couple Grand Prix bikes. And he looks at me, stares at me, and he said, I may have a couple for you. So fast forward, and another close friend of mine, actually across from here, got a whole collection of stuff. And he got like 4 or 5 Desmos Dici, and he asked me if I can help him get a Grand Prix bike. I go, well, it just so happened there's a couple available, you know. I go, oh, wow, I like that one. So anyway, months gone by, I reached out to Paolo again, and he said, okay, he said, I'm very busy right now, but I can get you this bike, that bike, so on and so on. So I went over to Italy, to Bologna, I think the 13, and they have a GP11, right, pulled out. They started up in front of me, this and that, and so I have all Nicky livery on it, right. So I send the video to my buddy. Oh, I want that one. So that was it. So later on, Paolo asked me, he goes, he's getting the second bike ready, and he said, what livery would you want? And I, well, in 2011, the factory were Rossi, right, and Nicky. So that was it. And he goes, okay, so he prepared out the bike, so on and so on, and that was it. And later, recently, kind of discover, according to Apollo, where I go, these bikes were never raised by neither of those riders, but they did it for me, like more display, you're not supposed to ride it, this and that, right? And he said, the race bike, actual race bike, owned by other people, and we kind of get an idea who they were. But anyway, And so, but they're genuine MotoGP bike, just not raced by these two riders. So that's why the answer to you were yes, I bought two of them, but they actually raced them. So I want to clarify that before I get myself in trouble.
Oh, that makes perfect sense actually. But that's a really fascinating story. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, it's an interesting motorcycle. I think under my agreement, I'm not supposed to ride the bike for the first, I don't remember now. I think 6 years, something like that. But I did email them one time. There was a Pirelli a day at Laguna, and I said I'm gonna do exhibition. Beyond my contract, I could get permission to do exhibition, right? And not racing, but exhibition. They didn't respond. So I think, okay, at least I told you I'm gonna do that. So I remember when Laguna saying, just very giggly, and I said, I'm the oldest person ever on a MotoGP bike come down the corkscrew ever. Because at that time I was like, at least I would say, what, 64? But anyway, so I'm giving you all the boring stories, right? So anyway, so basically right now, I'm able to have, really enjoy the motorcycle differently. It's not about speed. It's because now when you live as long as I have, like for example, when I discovered the Petronas motorcycle by accident in Malaysia, what happened was about 5 6 years ago, I was invited to Brno, to Prague, to test ride a few bikes for fun with a friend of mine. And he had Marc Marquez Moto 2 bike. He has Troy Corsa Petrona. He had Mahindra Moto 3 bike. So I spent 3 days at Bruno and I rode those bike. And his nephew did a little video on the front straightaway, right? So one day I post a video of me on the Petrona, Troy Corsa's bike, down the straightaway. And someone reached out to me and said, would you like to buy one? And I'm going, well, not that. I said, I'd like to buy a street bike that's been missing all these years, right? If you Google Petrona FP1, there's a lot of mystery behind why this bike disappeared. So in any event, so the guy goes, well, that's what we have. And I'm like, you do? And he goes, where are you? I said, in California. Well, if you ever come to Malaysia, reach out to me. So that was it. So about 8 9 months later, I went to Malaysia and to watch the MotoGP winter test, which is not a public deal, but so Ducati again, Paolo Giparte got me a couple passes for me and my friend, so we get to visit, and one night, and I do a typical me, do the social media, Facebook, all this stuff about Malaysia. So all of a sudden during dinner with one of my Malaysian friends, and I get a private message and go, are you in Malaysia? I go, yeah. He go, this is so and so, and I'm the one that reached out. I have these bike. Would you like to come test ride them? Woo! Yeah, forgot about those, right? So next day we found them, met up with them, and opened this sliding door. There was 10 of them in there, and there were 8 black and 2 silver ones. I'm going, why? Those are wrong colors, So now he gave me the rundown why they were in that color. And so, which is another part of history that I discovered, right? That why they were missing, because they have a lot of legal issue with, I guess in UK, they had some issue with taxes. And in Malaysia, they had issue with the homologation for street. I guess they would never got certified, So in any event, so years went by. They were allowed to sell them. They're not allowed to sell them under the name Petronas, nor FP1, nor the logo, or combine the color. So that's why they just sprayed it all. Now remember, they're all carbon fiber. They're gorgeous, aluminum gas tank, all that. So I decided to buy all of them, right? So I'm gonna buy all of them. So make the guy a deal, and so two went to the gentleman that let me ride his bike, right? A year before, because he was at that time he was CEO of Suter, right? The people in Switzerland, and Suter helped them develop the motor from day one, from Sauber and back in the Sauber Formula One, all that. But anyway, so when I told him this bike, right, And he go, oh, wow, I'll take two. So I shipped him two, and I kept the rest. The first one I restored took me over a year to restore because I knew nothing about it internally. We opened the fairing. Oh my God, look at this, look at that. And so my friend, my mechanic doing restoration, posts a picture of the bike. Well, one of his customer, right, went crazy. Big collector. He wanted it. So basically offered me crazy money for it. I said, okay, well, I got plenty. He said, go ahead. So then he wouldn't write it. He put it in his house, look at it, right? And so then another guy, another friend of mine in New York, my friend Alan Wuzik, right? He has his own racetrack in New York. And so Alan go, hey, would you sell me one? Here's my buddy. I go, yeah, no problem. So I sold him one. Then the gentleman that came with me to Malaysia, right? And he go, you know what, Cameron, I think I like to have one too. Okay, you got one too, right? So before you knew it, right, all the bikes are gone, and guess who doesn't have one? Me. I don't have all my friends are collectors got them, right? Except me. So
Oh
recently,
no.
it's crazy. In fact, 2 nights ago, I had dinner with my friend Rusty, and we were joking. Well, thanks, Kaming. He said, for helping us get our Patronas and stuff. And they start laughing, and you don't have one. But the thing were, because what I did with the seller, the gentleman, he said to me, he said he got a few more. So he said, if you get rid of more of them, he said, I can get you a few more. So that's why I was comfortable, offer to my friends. So now I have one now under restoration for me, right? Of course, I would have people bugging me to take it. I'm like, no, I'm keeping this one, please, But anyway, those so like I like bike as some historic value. People think I'm a collector. I'm really not a collector, at least not in my eyes. I Because that's why I write them. See, when I get stuff, I write them. See, the collector look and polish them, they kiss it, take picture, posing next to it. I take care of my bikes, but I want to take it out and wing it up, And I have a few. I ride my Patrona, but I have my Desmos DG. I have a 1299 Superleggera. I have a 1199 Superleggera. I have all kind of crap. All kind of stuff. But I'll take them out to the racetrack and try them out. Now I'm restoring a couple of very unique Ducatis. I have very beginning 1990, 91, when Ducati came out with the X51. Well, the X51 came out 88 or something, but the early version, there's a lot of issues. But later on, they got it together when the A80 XCC and with the inverted O-lens and all that. Anyway, but in Italy, they built 16 of these X51s with the A8 motor for the Italian Superbike series. And they only built 16 of them. And I have one of the survivors that with all the lights and everything else, it's almost done now restoring. And it's all documented, one of the 16 from Italy, so on. Then I have another one. They made more of these, like 400 of them, but still, it's very unique. And the same year, same era, same style. The only way you can tell the difference from the race one has magnesium cases and covers, and also have a carbon fiber gas tank with external gas lines. And also internally, I think some of the flywheels are lining up, everything's lined up, for quicker revs and stuff like that. And also exhaust pipe looks the same, but it's longer. Because what happened is I noticed it hits my turn signal, the rear turn signal, and whereas the other one is clear perfectly. So it's a longer exhaust pipe and so on. So again, I don't believe I'm a collector because I know the history. I get excited and just because I have a bunch of other stuff too. I have my Benellis. What else? I have KTM, Aprilia. I'm doing a Aprilia project now. My Ducati V4s, which I have a track bike for that and a street bike. I hardly ride street anymore. I don't even know. I mean, I have 30 some motorcycles, but anyway. So, but Yeah, I, I write them. Like I said, I don't feel I'm a collector because I, I work on them, I jump on them, I write them, and I do. It's so funny. Some people said I do more track day, you know, than I have more track day miles now last 10 years than I did my whole entire career racing. You know, so,
That's
but
awesome. So I have to ask you, what of everything that you've ridden, and it could be something you own or just something that you got to race or ride, what is your favorite motorcycle that you have swung a leg over and why?
wow.
Do you have one that stands out in your mind?
Well, obviously, well, every time my first experience, always a, ow, wow, either good or bad, right? So it could be good, it could be bad. Same with relationship, right? You meet somebody, go, that was a great relationship. That's like crap. You know, my first day, that sucks. But it's same thing with me. What happened? I have great respect and admiration for those invest the time and the money and engineer a vehicle, regardless a spaceship, a plane, a bike, whatever. Because somebody have an idea, they believe it's going to work for whatever better reasons. So for me, it's a privilege to have uh, uh, the means to get some of these to sample them. So every one of them, most of them do give me, oh wow, this is good, right? Of course, as the technology evolve and things change, and could be better, and some could be worse. But of course, most stuff is better. And that also evolve in our skill, technique of writing. Because when you have vehicle changes, tire changes, chassis changes, ride height changes, everything, you write differently because motorcycle is different than a car. You're not strapped in it. You are part of it. You are part of the ballet, right? So it's a ballet to dance with it. So what happened is when they change the geometry, change this and that, while sometimes you go, what's wrong with it? Well, because you haven't gotten used to it or acclimated with it. Then once you get acclimated, you go, oh shit, this actually works. For example, the first time I rode a multi-strada, I go, whoa, man, what a crap, right? Because it feels so tall, weird, right? And besides ugly, it's sin, right? After I spend a day with it, I could not get off of it. I go, okay, now I got it. I connected with it, right? So that was one of those moments you're talking about the bike jump on. You go, oh wow, right? Um, Same thing. The Benelli, my 1130 triple. I remember I was doing a little motorcycle.com photo shoot with them, and I had this press bike, and I got it home, and my wife looked at it and go, what is that? I go, isn't that thing ugly? But yeah, right. So then it's heavy, you know. Then when I rode it through the canyons, right? Because the bike's kind of heavy, and because the triple, the power plant only got I think 120 horsepower, 128 in the back wheel, but the torque curve is flat, completely flat. So you can jump in the corner, you pick up a throttle, you don't have a surge, you don't have anything. It's just smooth. It doesn't matter. And so all of a sudden now I'm flying on this thing, right? Suddenly now I'm no longer look at her being ugly. Now she's all of a sudden she's sexy to me because now I can ride real well on this thing, you know. And also being heavy, it also absorb for the canyons, right? Absorb the bump very well, right? Because light bike jumps around a lot, and so this thing felt very planted. So to answer your question, it's very hard to say pick one because everyone I create a relationship with it and I learn about it. And that's why I have different motorcycle. Had nothing related to horsepower. Now, of course, horsepower also, for example, my V4 Mitos track bike. I don't think I go faster on that bike, but it sure gave me a thrill when I twist the throttle because it's a rocket and I'm holding on my dear life. And I mean it. If you ever come out, you jump on that bike, even Larry Pegram, I remember when I first built that bike. He was out here at Chuck Waller. He go, let me ride that bike. So Pegram jump on it. First he said to me, he go, what setting you on? I said, well, this on 1, that's on 2, blah, blah, blah. You don't need that. Turn them all off. He said, okay, turn it all off. So I said, no, you can't write it with that. Nah, you don't need it. So it goes out. I go to the pit wall. I'm standing there, and all of a sudden, here comes Larry. I go, hey, what's wrong? What's wrong? He go, hold on, let's put this back on 1. He go, I can't write this thing. So he put it back, and he wrote a few more laps. And I remember he came back in. He said, what have you done to that? Well, I said, I changed the geometry, 2 degree, more rake, and give more trail, this and that. And because that way I can use the power, lengthen the swing arm, and get the throttle longer, blah, 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 all kind of crap. So he go, this thing, he said, I can finish top 5 Motor America, right? And I said, I know it's fast. So I go, no, I go, this is a rocket. He go, at that time, I go, this is faster than my Superbike when he was racing.
Wow.
Well, because this thing, I think I have a little bit over 200, and on the dyno, I believe right around 202, 206 at the back wheel. That's a lot of horsepower.
Wow, to the rear wheel.
I also stripped all the lights, the bike's lighter, right? Mm-hmm. And also having a little bit, longer wheelbase, you have a lot more stable on the throttle, so you can carry a lot more corner speed, right? And you don't feel nervous, you know what I mean? And so now that bike, for me at this age in my life, the level, what it gives me, it's a thrill, like, oh my God, I'm holding on for dear life, So yeah, to answer your question, I think every bike, including the GP bike, everybody thought the GP bike may be very difficult to ride. It may be if it's a maximum horsepower, because the bike that I have is 800cc. The red line is 22,000 RPM. But what they did, Ducati did, when they sold the bike, they locked out my ECU and kept it at 17,000. Mm-hmm. So what happened? It never get to the horsepower. Now, they were dynoed, engine dyno, not the rear tire dyno. Mm-hmm. Back in the day, the 800cc Ducati got put out 240 horsepower at the crank. That's a lot of horsepower. Right? And so now they're pushing 300, by the way. So what happened?
Yeah, insanity.
In another atmosphere, right? So when I rode my bike the first time, a little nervous, and I realized it's a very easy bike to ride, super easy. Also, the chassis is very low, it's long, and because again they set the power band very tame, so the bike is super light. At 145 kilos. But that bike is. So it's like 320 pounds. That's it. So
wow, that's really light.
And it's light, and it's all carbon everything. So when I went down, I rented a racetrack. Well, I rented a couple of times. I rented Miller Motorsport Park, rent the whole track out. So we brought both GP bike out there and we run around, and it really is an easy bike to ride. It was now again maybe in full power it's very difficult, but it was right now I believe it may in the back tire maybe 190, the way it's set up, but it's only thing difficult had carbon disc. So one time I forgot to warm it up, so I went on the outlap, and I remember giving a little goose, little power, and I grabbed the brake. There was no brake. I'm just going, oh shit, I'm gonna crash, and so I learned now making sure like drag the brake, pump it, make sure heat them up first, another interesting, it comes with 16.5 slicks, right? Wheels, 16.5 diameters. All the manufacturer quit making those tires, like I think 14, 15 maybe, 16 maybe at the latest. So they don't, but those are like tire choice for World Superbike, AMA Superbike, everybody run those, GP and so on. So I bought every tire Pirelli had, right? I think 2014 or 15, I bought every tire they had. So I'm down to 3 sets. So last year I was at Laguna Seca, and there was a Ducati track day with no sound restriction. So Ducati North America
It's the
They go, bring your GB bike. So okay, so I bought a GB bike. So so I did an exhibition during lunch, and so I was sitting in my garage, and Farachi was in there, and the guy from Pirelli, Oscar, was there, and so on. So conversation came up where, wow, it's so good, to see people buy this bike actually, come and show them and share with other enthusiasts. So I made a comment about, hey, I'm about running out of tires, so before long I won't be able to ride it. And Oscar said, maybe I can help you. Long story short, there's something money cannot buy. It's all about enthusiasm from one man to another. Before you knew it, now I have more tire than I need. I have brand new 16.5 racing slick that
Nice.
you can get. Now, of course, there's so many tires I cannot use all of them. So Iconic Motorcycle, it's helping me sell part of it to share with other people. So, so there are people just like me have this unique super bikes and stuff. They couldn't ride them because no tires, and now they can use them. So, which is great. So I'm just sharing with the community. First of all, I don't need all of them. I could use a few more sets. I have another Ducati Superbike that have 16.5 wheels, which I'm restoring that one too. I got so many projects. Oh my god.
It's a good problem to have, but
well, because I think the historic, I like the historic of it, and I do it for the passion of it. And, I've never done it for the money because it costs me money to do all this. And
motorcycles cost money.
yeah. Well, also it's like okay, like people talk about like having bragging right, for example. It's not even that because it's just never meant like that for me. Never meant like that for me. It's just again, I appreciate what this engineer, manufacturer, what they produce, and I just feel privileged, able to afford it, buy them. I want to ride it, and people knows me real well, close to me. They have written everything I own because I share it. There are people close to me. Every one of them have written my bike, including my MotoGP bike.
Wow, that's really generous.
Yeah, that's it. And because I share, I'm a sharer. Again, I always because people share with me, right? Help me out, carry me along. So, but anyway, so I'm sorry I could not answer that question directly, but they all have some special moment. How I feel jumping up, wow, ooh, and I discover thing. It's great. That's why I have so many different bikes. They are very unique. I have EBRs too. My EBR, I love my EBR. Absolutely love it. I have 3 of them.
Wow.
Yeah, have you heard the RS, the carbon fiber version with O-lens on it? Yeah, they built I think 77 of them, and a lot of them racing.
I got to sit on one once.
I have one with 300 miles on it. It's like brand new. And
Wow.
but the reason
Beautiful.
because there's a little because see what happened when you don't ride motors, you don't ride them, finger come up. So I rode the first time, and it kind of like when I first come off idle, right? When I pick up a throttle, it kind of a cough, right? So that's dangerous because if you make a right hand turn on the intersection, it cough and it drop, it dies, right? So, but because I have so many freaking projects, so I'm not able to get to that one yet. But I need to basically either I need to figure out why it's doing that, and it could be from what you call it, the throttle position, the cam. Because what happened is sit around long time, and it could be it's not engaging. What do you call it? Not getting the right contact. So when you pick up a throttle and it's not sending a signal to reaching up the field. So I may have to take that out and clean it. Again, it takes time, do all this.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I love all this stuff. And then one of the reasons because we raced EBR. Larry Pegram did. So I became
that's right.
yeah. So I become pretty good friend with Eric Beale, and so I remember when we were racing EBR, and one day I was over for lunch before Royal America, and Eric said to me, "Come on, I'll show you something." So I went into his room, and he had this thing all taped up and covered. and he rips it up. He goes, oh man, the painter's gonna be mad at me. So he ripped it all up, and he goes, look at this. I go, whoa. Now, the EBR, the first EBR was sport bike full fairing with clip-ons. So that was the first pre-production, what do you call it, SX, the naked bike, the Street Fighter. Then he was telling me it's the same engine, same everything, same chassis. The only difference is the headlight and with the proper handlebar. Ergonomically, it's better for street. So jokingly, I said, "Hey, I need one, VIN number 1001." He kind of laughed, and that was it. So then later on, they launched the bike. I think they launched it in India somewhere, whatever it was, so on. So
yeah, I remember that.
yeah, I think so. But anyway, so later on one day, after the racing season's over, and Larry Pilgrim at that time he had a TV show called Superbike Family. So he said, "Hey, come to Wisconsin in February." I go, "It's cold. I don't want to go there." So he go, "You got to come. You got to come. You got to come." So okay. Then all of a sudden, this guy, Brad used to work for Birch Production. They the one that did all the AMA Superbike live feed for television. So so the cameraman Brad go, "Hey, you're gonna be in Wisconsin. What's your flight?" And I said, "Whatever." He go, "Will you wait for me so I can catch a ride? We'll go to a hotel." So I figure, okay, they must be doing a Superbike family thing, whatever. They want me to be part of it. Right, that was it. Didn't think much about it. Long story short, I showed up, and it was during lunchtime, the next day, and during lunchtime. And Eric came out and walked me through the production line, showed me how they build EBRs. And with Larry Pilgrim, and the camera's running, and it's a nice lady taking still photos and stuff. And all of a sudden, Larry go, "Hey, Kaming, you know what?" He said, "I just want to let you know how much I appreciate all the years supporting me and my racing and stuff." He go, "Here's your SX, and it's all wrapped in the Pilgrim EBR livery, right?" And he go, "By the way," he go, "Look," and he pointed the VIN number. He go, "Eric saved this one. It's 00001." And
that's so awesome.
I know, it's so awesome, right? So I'm almost in tears. I'm giving everybody a hug. I couldn't believe I'm sitting there. And then all of a sudden I look on my shoulder, and all the assembly line men and women standing behind me, right? And all of a sudden, I can't remember who did hand me what you call Sharpie, and they all signed the bike, or the frame, everything. So more excited. I get this bike. Well, months gone by, right? They went to receivership, right? So suddenly now I go, I can't ride this bike. So that's the only bike that I have not ridden, is that one, because I'm afraid to hurt it, because you have the original men and women sign the assembly line signed this bike. And it's like,
wow.
So that was awesome, and
that's special.
Yeah, that is special. But anyway, so I went and bought
very special.
So I went and bought 2 other ones so I can ride.
Nice.
That's funny.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, I don't know how many motorcycles you guys ridden. I know that Laura, done a lot of Ducati stuff, but then you guys are very young. So when you become as old as I am, you get to, it's different, I'm sure you sampled a different bike. And
I'll ride anything.
Yeah, but they're different, right? You feel different.
I enjoy. Yeah,
same thing. And Laura, I have something to share with you too. I noticed you have a Ducati Monster, right?
Yeah, I do.
By accident, I have a Ducati Monster, and was Eddie Van Halen's Ducati Monster.
ha.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that was by total accident, and I don't want to go into the story, but anyway, so I end up with that bike. So I have that sitting in my dining room. Now, the reason why my stuff in the dining room, because my house under remodel, so I have so many bikes, so they're all over the place. So I have bikes everywhere. So, but anyway, so that's another story.
That sounds like a dream. I would love to have bikes everywhere.
Yeah. My wife's cool. My wife probably, I love the girl, but we known each other now. I met her. I think she was at 23. I was just separated 2 years already, and and but we didn't date. We went on one date, and but we didn't actually start dating till a year later, just by another thing. But I don't want to bore you with that. But anyway, her and I have been together ever since, and I shared it with somebody. I said we're together now almost 30 years, and I think we only have three disagreements. I wouldn't say huge fight, but
Wow.
three, and we really get along super well. We really enjoy each other. In fact, tonight she go, man, I wish I could go with you. You know, she go, and and of course I wish too, but can because she's struggling with Parkinson's disease, and she don't have energy to spend a lot of time up and running around. So yeah, I miss her for doing that, and so I'm very fortunate that I don't have a full time job, so I can take care of her, and she's getting some stem cell treatment right now, and blah blah blah. So it's been challenging for her, not so much for
Mhm.
me, but watching from outside in, it's very sad for me to see this young woman that's been an athlete all her life. She ran every marathon. She run every day 6 miles no matter what. And suddenly she couldn't walk, and that's crazy. And but other than that, I'm very fortunate, so I can do stuff with you and work my motorcycle and so on. But
Yeah, and you've been really generous with a lot of people. I know you mentioned a story to me when we were on the phone about, if you were to look back on your life, you had some reflections and you took inventory around what you would do different.
yeah, it's amazing, really. There is an American dream, and there is just a humanity dream. People look after me. People gave me opportunities. Sure, everybody go, yeah, I earned it. I try harder than anybody else. So blah blah blah. Yeah, that sounds great. Okay, all those are great. But without somebody, give you an opportunity. And I don't want to get all political and all emotional, all this gag me stuff. But there are a lot of people today, never had an opportunity, and they could have done something for themselves. Um, but I was lucky. I lived my life through the eyes of Forrest Gump, and I don't judge people. I respect everybody, regardless they're different than me. Like especially right now, people talk about vaccination, not vaccinated, whatever it is. So I don't get an argument, because I govern my life, not yours. And I understand for the better good. You're supposed to, everybody should be this and that. Well, at the end of the day, just like flu, right? Some people take flu shots, some of them don't. Some people die from flu, some don't. So at the end of the day, so what are they going to have another variant? They're going to need another vaccine. It's been going around for 100 years. So I'm not going to argue with my friend that don't want to vaccinate. No, they're still my friends, still love them, and life goes on. And that's how I treat everybody because, yeah, be kind to one another. And I've been very lucky.
Respect. Mhm.
Absolutely. So, what's next for you?
Yeah.
Oh, something really good. So, because I'm finally putting one of my Patrona bike together, so I'm gather all the Patrona owner in North America, and possibly I'm trying to reach out to Carl Fogarty because he was one that ran the team, right? And depending on the travel, with this COVID thing, and we going to go to Alan Wilsick's private racetrack in New York, and we going to have all the Patrona lineup, and we're going to ride around with we go with the drone, and then we're going to sit in his museum, and with all the bike behind it, and do a round table. We're going to do one of these video podcast thing, right? And talk about the Patronas, and very specific about Patrona, and interview each of these owners, right, and why they buy it, and because no one ever done that ever. So that's exciting. Then tomorrow I'm driving up to Thunder Hill. We are going to test our vintage race car. I go down to Mexico and race that rally. So we built a new car and we tested it and needed some changes. So they did the changes. So I'm going to test it this Friday. And then we're going to do the Monterey Historic Car event. And we're going to do an exhibition and run against my fellow, Mexican Pan Am, guys. I have no idea. I've never done it locally, but I only raced down Mexico with these cars. So I've never done it on a track with among other drivers. The problem is I used to race cars, right? I mean, on the track, right? Not in the canyon. So I only driven this car race in the canyon, right? In a rally with 30-second increments. So you don't see traffic. On the racetrack, it's going to be fender to fenders, right? So it's all depends how I feel that day. If I feel like I have to win, or do I feel like I save the car?
It's fair.
Because when you have fenders, you're invincible, especially if a cage, right? So if you don't mind on the freaking dent, go for it. You know what I mean? Because all your fellow drivers gonna hate you because they can move away. Imagine if you just spend $100,000 on something and some crazy Chinaman coming down, move away. It's coming.
I predict you are going to have a blast.
Definitely. To me now, all this adventure is it's funny. The jokes now, everybody that knows me go, Kaming track day. It's only a sidebar. Most important is which restaurant you're gonna eat at. That's very important. So right away I'm making reservations, right, to all the best restaurants in Monterey because I know it's gonna be packed. So I'm gonna have friends that run the management of certain restaurants, right? I'll make sure they save me a table, and because to me it's more it's a social thing for me now. Remember, there's no trophy, there's no money, but what I have is a lifetime friends and around the globe, anywhere I go. I mean, even just recently on Facebook, friend of mine's wife says, you got to come up to British Columbia because they have what do you call it, Area 27. I think there's a track out there, and they remember. Yeah, and they go.
So jealous.
Yeah, you got to come do this, right? I go, yeah. I said, well, I want to go back to Europe, and he gave me a list. She gave me a list, and I said, I can't do those things yet, right? With the months, September, October, whatever, right? Because I'm doing the music thing with the Patronus. So I'm trying to plan next year if I could. It's all again depend how we can travel. And one of the things I want to do next September is do a Catalonia, a Formula One experience. So there's a company in UK, and they have a bunch of old Formula One cars, including the Benetton Formula One cars. And so there's about 6 of us, including Alan in New York, and we want to go sign up and do. And Catalonia is an outrageous track, beautiful track. I went there when my oldest daughter first year learned how to ride bike. We went over there, rode 3 days in Catalonia, and she get to ride the Moto 2 bike for 3 days. That was the first year. Wow. That was the first year she learned how to ride bike. She loves it. She's like, it's the best, But anyway, so because I kind of know the track now, so I can't wait to do a Formula One experience there. I'm hoping to do that next October. But there's other track like Portimao that I did. I rode 1299 there. I love the track. Very challenging. I'm super slow on it, but it's so challenging. I'm gonna go back. And
challenges are fun. I'm discovering this myself lately.
Yeah, because what I found when you ride a local road and you ride a local track, it's so redundant, and I don't even want to put my clothes on to ride it anymore. So what I've discovered now, I like road trips, places I've never been. I kind of like, let's go that way, and discover all kind of neat things. And then same with racetrack. If someone said to me, "Have you been this track?" I remember one day I said, everybody talk about Phillips Island. I want to do Phillips Island, so I booked myself to Phillips Island. I flew to Phillips Island. It rained for 2 days, right? So spend all this money. I rode 4 laps. So now there's nothing I can do about it, right? So then next opportunity came around. Let's do it again, right? So this time I have 2 perfect days. So I loved it so much, and then I went back again. So a year and a half ago, yeah, and I went back again, had a good time with a couple friends. So yeah, right now what I'm doing next is, we're all going to end up the same place, and we never know the date, and that's a kind of cliche. Everybody talk about that. I always plan that I'm living tomorrow. So every day I am reaching out to people I know. Hey, you want to do this? You want to do that? In fact, just now on the way here, I called Zig. I said, Zig, since we're going to be East Coast with Alan's place, right? You want to go to a New York safety track? And I go, let's rent a track. They only want $4,700. Let's take the track. Take over the track. They go, yeah, I'll do it, brother. So it's like I see the opportunity. I want to go do it. You know what I mean? And I said, shit, we're going that far. What's the difference to spend another $1,000 each, right? To go on the racetrack and all to ourselves, So because we will truck all our bikes up there. We have our track bike, our Patronus, right? And so we are there now. Why not? So I told the guy in New York safety track, hold that one day for me until I get a whole rest of my buddies. So make sure they can do it, And so I'm trying to make plans. I make plans. I'm still living tomorrow, no matter what.
It's fantastic. That's what life's about, making memories. And I mean, yeah, because you're not going to take your things to the grave. So you got to live and create new memories.
Yeah. And with your friend, the people I'm telling you, I remember at Riverside years ago on a race car, and I pit right across. The garage should go butt up to each other. So right across from me was Paul Newman, right? So, and I remember one of the conversation we talk about were our racing and stuff. And he said, he'd rather hang out with the racers, a friend with racer than with the people in his industry. And so, I mean, he I can see why, I can see why. So, but anyway, listen, you gave me plenty of time. I bore you. I told you, Laura, I could sit here.
I know.
You get to my age, you got a lot of stuff going on,
Yeah, no, this is fantastic. I know, because these are stories that I did not know. So I feel honored to have heard all these stories that you shared with us, and for us to remind everyone to live their life, to go do it, to dream, and to
figure out how to get to that next step. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, well,
yeah, just listening to you tell us all these tales and everything, like I'm just so I love it. It's very inspirational to me because I want to live my life and make experiences as well with my friends, and seeing you and seeing how much you've accomplished and how much you're living your life, like that's amazing. I love it. So thank you for taking the time and sharing with us.
Hey, thank you for having me, and I hope you ladies can come out and join me this track day. We have great weather out here. We don't rain much here.
So I've heard.
Okay.
All we've gotten recently is rain, so I think we'll want to take you up on that offer.
All right.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Have a great evening, and I'll send some pictures.
Oh, perfect.
Thank you.
That was fantastic. Thank you.
Ciao.
Have a great night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.